Most people think all Muslim countries hate Israel, that they stand united with Palestine and against the West. But that's far from the truth. Some Muslim countries are openly trading with Israel, while others are secretly helping it with intelligence and security. And some are choosing silence over solidarity in this war with Iran. So, who really supports Israel in the Muslim world? You're about to find out. Right now, the world is watching what looks like a war between two countries, Israel and Iran. There are missile strikes, cyber attacks, threats of escalation, and a sense that we might be standing on the edge of something much larger. But here's the truth. Almost no one's talking about. This isn't just a war between Israel and Iran. It's a war that silently pulls in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Pakistan, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and even Russia and the US. It's a war that exposes the deep cracks within the Muslim world, a world often seen as one united front, but in reality, divided by ideology, strategy, and ambition. This video will break that myth. And to understand this Iran-Israel conflict, we need to understand something much deeper. The Muslim world is not one voice. It's a battlefield of competing visions. And that's exactly why this war is so unpredictable. Whenever a conflict breaks out between Israel and a Muslim country, especially Iran, headlines start talking about how the Muslim world is rising up, or Muslim nations are united. It sounds powerful and emotional, but the reality is that it's just not true. Yes, Iran and Israel are at odds. Yes, the Gaza war intensified after October 2023. But if we zoom out, the picture becomes much more complicated. Many Muslim-majority countries are not aligned with Iran at all. In fact, some of them are working with Israel quietly, or at least staying silent during the war. For example, Gulf countries like Egypt and Turkey. They've all responded differently to this Israel-Iran conflict. Some condemn Israel in public, some blame Iran for destabilizing the region, and some choose to stay neutral and protect their economies. So, the idea that the Muslim world is one unified bloc proves to be a myth. Let's talk about the richest part of the Muslim world, the Gulf. When the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain signed the Abraham Accords in 2020, they became the first Arab countries in decades to officially normalize ties with Israel. In 2021, trade between Israel and the UAE jumped from $115 million to a massive $632 million. Behind closed doors, Israeli cyber tech was being installed, security partnerships were expanding, and business was booming. And guess what? Even after the war in Gaza and the recent Iran-Israel escalations, these countries haven't backed out. In fact, they've remained mostly silent, even as Iran accuses Israel of crimes and attacks its consulates. Why? Because these countries are not siding with Iran. They see Iran as a threat, not just to Israel, but to them. Take Saudi Arabia, for instance. Though it hasn't officially joined the Abraham Accords, Saudi intelligence has coordinated secretly with Israel for years, especially to monitor Iran's proxy groups. Riyadh has not condemned Israel in the strongest terms, even after recent strikes in Gaza and Damascus. Why? Because Saudi Arabia fears Iranian expansion far more than it supports Iranian-style resistance. So when Israel and Iran trade bombs, the Gulf does not stand with Iran. It quietly watches, cautiously hopes Israel keeps Iran in check, and makes sure the oil and gas keep flowing to its people. But Iran doesn't need Gulf allies to fight its war. Because Iran has already built something more powerful than its allies. It has built a shadow army across the region. And that's where we go next. The war between Israel and Iran isn't happening only through missiles. It's also happening through proxies and partners, and this is where Iran has changed the game. Over the years, Iran has built a powerful web of allies across the region. a Shia crescent that stretches from Lebanon's Hezbollah to Syria's regime to militias in Iraq and the Houthis in Yemen. All of them receive training, weapons, and funding from Tehran. When Iran's consulate in Syria was struck by Israel in April 2024, it wasn't just an ordinary attack, rather a message to the whole network. Days later, Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles directly at Israel, breaking its usual pattern of indirect retaliation. But here's the twist. Most Muslim countries didn't join Iran. And even those who spoke out against Israel didn't offer military support to Iran. Iran's network doesn't represent the entire Muslim world. It represents a specific ideological axis, one built on resistance to the West, support for Shia movements, and hostility to Gulf monarchies. Countries like Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt have complicated views. Yes, they criticize Israel, but they're also deeply suspicious of Iran's ambitions. In fact, Iran-backed militias have been blamed for attacks in Iraq, Syria, and even plots in Bahrain. So while the Iran-Israel war rages, many Muslim governments are keeping their distance, not because they support Israel, but because they don't trust Iran either. And as Iran plays its proxy game, another layer of complexity rises: the influence of global superpowers, who aren't just watching this war, but shaping it behind the scenes. So let's come back to where we started. This war between Israel and Iran, being a global clash, is also a test of the complexity of opinions and strategies in the Muslim nations. But one thing is clear: the Muslim world isn't a single block. It's a map full of ambition, fear, faith, and realism. And if we want to understand where this war is heading next, we must stop asking whose side are they on, and start asking what are they trying to protect. Because in the Middle East, sometimes what you don't say out loud tells you everything. And when it comes to who actually supports Israel, it's not who you think. But this story doesn't end here. What happens next in Lebanon? Will Hezbollah escalate or step back? Can Syria remain a proxy battlefield forever? Will the Abraham Accords grow into a second wave with new signatories like Saudi Arabia, Oman, or even Indonesia? And what happens if the quiet diplomacy fails and the war spreads beyond borders? These are the questions we'll explore in the next chapter. Because the alliances are shifting, the enemies are watching, and the silence between missiles is louder than ever. Stay with us. The next video will go deeper.